I actually genuinely believe the most successful construction companies are not run by builders. We had a 50-year-old builder here at the weekend on a course, and I was going through how he should present a quotation. And he'd been doing it, literally, post-it note with a number on it, there's your quote. And when I gave him an 18-page document demonstrating professionalism, demonstrating transparency, and giving the customer a level of comfort, his head was blown. We have a guy in my digital mastermind who his average priced quote was 3K, and he closed 158 grand. 100% mindset first, courage second, strategy third.
Welcome to this week's episode of Wealth Talk. My name's Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for Wealth Builders, joined today by our founder, Mr. Kevin Whelan. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Chris. Good to be with you again. And I'm not talking about inheritance tax today.
No. Well, definitely been covering that in the past few weeks and still got many people downloading our guide. So if you haven't already done that, head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/IHT. And just a quick recap, Kevin, what people can expect from that guide.
You know, my passion subject for the moment, isn't it, really? Helping people understand how they can reduce and mitigate inheritance tax, given the government's introduced it for pensions, and also why you need to know who the executors are in your will, so you don't lumber them with a massive problem or even a fine in the future because they don't understand pensions and who really does, apart from professionals like us. So definitely listen to those. So I'm going to steal your line. If you've got a pension and a family, you definitely need to get the guide.
Yeah, wealthbuilders.co.uk/IHT. Head there after you've listened to today's episode, where we have a special guest joining today, Mr. Paul Tinker. He's the founder of the Construction Training Academy. And whilst we will be primarily talking about property today, there's definitely an emphasis on the importance of being business smart. And I guess a lot of people who fall into property investing and perhaps then, trades, refurbishing, don't necessarily have a business mind. They haven't necessarily been in business before. And so Paul has found that he's actually got a real skill for helping people to professionalize their businesses. And that's what we'll be talking about today.
It's a good word, so often you hear people in business and they're definitely amateurs. Hobbyists you like something, you turn it into a business. You do a bit of property, you turn it into a business, but it's really still at an amateur level. I think to make any asset work to maximize the impact on your wealth, need to be the best you can be and professionalize it. And sometimes that means adding skills, adding a way of thinking, putting processes in place that you're not naturally gifted to be able to create, but working with other people who can help you do it is a really good thing to do. And then once it's done, more often than not, it's part of a process done forever and makes your business, if you've got a trading business, more sellable, or it makes your property business one that isn't sucking your time from you, so you can go to the beach and relax with the phone off rather than, there's something gone wrong with a need for a tenant or anything like that. So property is something to focus on if you're doing property, to get it to a place where it can create that recurring income and then find a way that you don't need to be spending your time maintaining it as far as possible. And Paul does a great job of explaining how his unique take professionalizes people he teaches how to create a really solid property business, not a property investment.
So we should probably head on over to our conversation today with Mr. Paul Tinker. Paul, welcome to Wealth Talk today. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Thanks. To you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Now, Paul, you're the founder of the Construction Training Academy. You deliver construction management services to property strategists to ensure effective, efficient and compliant refurbishments, conversions and extensions. And the result of that is increased margins, less stress and compliance with legislation. A few headline figures: over £300 million in successful project deliveries and over 3,000 refurbishment projects delivered. So I think good credentials for today's conversation, Paul. Let's get straight into it. So you've already supported thousands of property developers, professional. What's the big opportunity in construction and property that most people are overlooking right now?
Oh, great question. I do need to write down your intro though, because it's better than mine. I like how you introduced me. That was great. I think there's a couple of opportunities. First and foremost, just being better at business rather than shoving plaster up a wall or laying bricks. They leave school. they figure out that they can charge money for working with the hands. But nobody ever teaches them how to run a business. Nobody ever teaches them financial management. And their business savviness or lack of business savviness is the thing that actually finishes them off. And to go from being a skilled person to becoming a business person is a very massive gap, if you like. So I think that the first opportunity is to become more business savvy. And in doing so, you immediately put yourself ahead of your peers. And I'm talking now, the specific part of the industry I'm speaking about now is in the domestic sector, those working for homeowners, private customers, et cetera, et cetera. But in the commercial space, not in commercial property, but in the wider and bigger part of the industry, so working for property developers, working for local authority, that as in that side of the commercial world, the huge opportunity becomes in taking hold of the entire process, the entire project, because the biggest disparity and failing I see between property developers and the construction industry is the bridging of both industries as they come together. So if I'm a developer on this hand and I'm an electrician on this hand, the bridge in the middle that's required from a compliance and an efficiency perspective, as to bring those two things together, generally speaking, the property investor takes the reins and they do it really badly. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean it in that there's no training, there's no understanding of industry, there's no understanding of the complexities involved with overlapping and entwining and collaborating. And that bridge in the middle, because it's done badly by property investors, developers, strategists, because that happens, that's where the opportunity sits, in my opinion.
And it's very clear when you go to your website, Paul, that you focus on helping 3 different avatars. And also you've got property developers and investors, and then all trainers, coaches, and mentors as well. So can you share more about each of these, please, and exactly, how you help them?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I am really, as in currently in this moment in time, I'm really doubling down on businesses purely because I believe there's an immediate need for that service right now, and that's going really, really well. I also, as you mentioned, train property developers, property investors to become project managers, to become main contractors, should they wish, to be able to compliantly and efficiently manage a refurbishment project. And I do that through a training course and or one-to-one mentoring thereafter. If somebody wants me as a consultant in a business, I'll go represent them. And I've done that for a number of years now. When it comes to the training side of things, there's a brand new product that I'm launching just this year. And what I see and believe in the space is that we have got lots and lots of people that are developing a skill set over a period of time, just like your SaaS product, just like my training product for the property developers. And I see people, they develop all of this knowledge. Now, we as a human race have a duty to pass that knowledge on to the next generation, to the next tranche of people, as it were, coming through. And I truly believe that everybody is a mentor. I genuinely believe that. There is somebody somewhere looking up to somebody somewhere. And I believe that person has a duty to help that other person. I'm going a long-winded way about this, telling you this, but it was that connection that I saw, like, people need a structure to be able to become a mentor, to be able to sell them a product or a service that has a tangible value with a recognizable, measurable outcome, and not just, I'll be your mentor, I'll be your coach, because those things don't have outcomes, they don't have outputs. Now, if I'm saying to a person that wants to become a coach or a trainer, I'm saying to them, look, I'm going to help you build a 6-figure training business over the next 12 months. That person can now connect to a result, to an outcome, what they're going to get at the end of the 12 months. And then that person during that 12-month period is going to design and define what their promise to their customers is going to be. Maybe that's going to be, I'm going to help you build a 7-figure portfolio. Maybe it's going to be, I'm going to help you build a 7-figure SaaS balance, or whatever that becomes. I'm going to help you invest in crypto or silver or precious metals or the stock market or whatever that is, with a measurable, tangible outcome. That's where the birth of I've called it Train the Trainer mastermind came from. And
I'm sure you get this as well, Paul, but for many trainers and coaches, consultants, you often get the question, okay, well, if you're so good at this stuff, why are you teaching other people? Why aren't you out there doing it yourself? What's your response to that?
Well, I am doing it myself is the first thing. Secondly, because I've done it for a number of years. And then Thirdly, because we've got to pass the torch. We've got a duty to pass on the torch. And the one thing I despise about people's view of the training industry is that they look at it and they go, well, he's making money out of training others. Well, yeah, I am, because that's my business. You're making money out of property. I don't see why people have, I'm not saying you did this, I don't see why people have got this like negative connotation to people that build a business around training. You know, we've got this product, we've got this service that helps other people get a result. Like that's got value.
Let's break it down then. So our listeners are going to be business owners, property investors, some people who are still working full time, but, you know, they've got one foot in that entrepreneurial camp as well. So what are some of the real ways then, Paul, someone could generate income from construction or property without being a builder or developer themselves?
Yeah, that's interesting. That question came up actually over the weekend on a different podcast I was on. And I actually believe that the most successful, and I really shouldn't say this out loud, but I will. I actually genuinely believe that the most successful construction companies are not run by builders. Like builders, generally speaking, now, of course, I don't like to generalize, but I'm going to have to. Generally speaking, they've done something a certain way for a long period of time. And to undo that thinking is really, really tough for me as a coach. You know, when I, as an example, we had a 50-year-old builder here at the weekend on a course, and I was going through how he should present a quotation. And he'd been doing it for 20, 30 years, whatever it was, literally post-it note with a number on it, 25 grand, there you go, Mr. Klein, there's your quote. And he saw nothing wrong in that at all. And when I gave him an 18-page document to be able to facilitate him increasing his conversion ratio, demonstrating professionalism, demonstrating transparency, and giving the customer a level of comfort what they're going to get for their money, his head was like blown. That is so obvious and simple to me. But his head was like, he could not believe the impact it was having on him listening to it, rather not even him actually using it and putting it into practice, but just listening to the theory of why that works and why my process works better than what his does. Now, I know for a fact that he'll go away and he'll carry on doing this, the post-it thing. And it will take me lots and lots of check-ins, and I know this from previous experience, to say, how did you get on using my framework? How did you get on using my framework? And that'll be 6 or 7 times before he actually uses it. Whereas someone that's not done it before, not done this before, and they just get my guide and follow my instructions, they have got no preconceived idea of whether this works or not. They just do the thing I'm showing them to do. So I genuinely think that the best construction business owners were never a builder. Like, I'd go as far as to say that most successful construction companies, I don't actually know this to be true, I'm going to have to find out now. I'll bet the owner of David Wilson Homes, Barrett Homes, all your tier ones, all the main contractors out there, I bet the owners are not builders. I'll put money on it. I hope they're not now. I've said that out loud. Yeah.
You referenced a framework then, Paul. Can you just give us an idea of kind of what the components of your framework are?
Yeah, of course. So breaking down a price, I use what's called the clarity framework. And rather than we're just going in for, a 25 grand, I hope you can actually see that, a 25 grand quote, I break it down into 8 steps. And the first thing is the clarity is the acronym. So C is a complete list of inclusions. And we really break down what I'm going to do for that money. And I'll give you a great analogy at the end of this. What we're going to do for the money. The L stands for listed exclusions. So things that we're not going to do for the money. So we've got everything that's in and everything that's out. Like, if we don't list out things that are out, your client or the client will assume that everything that you deem to be out is in, because you've not specified that it's out. That was a bit convoluted. I'm sure that made sense. The A is any assumptions made by the customer or by the builder. Is the requirements, any requirements made by that the builder is required, like off-street parking, use of your toilet, use of your power, use of your water, all of these things. I is the investment total, so the fees, what it's going to come to. It's important that it's put there after the other things, because we've added value first and then describe the investment total. T is the terms and conditions, so payment, when payment's going to be made, how much is going to be made, when it's going to be made, and how it's going to be made. And then the Y is any your special considerations. And that's things like 24/7 access, the things that stand you out from your competition. So that's the framework. And when people say to me, I'm not doing all that work, I go, so you're just going to carry on with this approach. Now, imagine going into a Michelin star restaurant, walking into the front door, being greeted by the waiter, and he sticks a menu under your nose and he goes, there's your menu. There's nothing in the menu. It's just blank. And then you say to him, well, how much is it? And the waiter says, £200 a head. And you go, well, what do I get for my £200 a head? And the waiter goes, I'm not telling you that. Why do you want to know how much profit I make? Like, what would you do in that situation? You'd run away. Of course you'd run away. And you'd want to say to the waiter, look, I want to know what courses I get. Am I getting a starter, a main, and a pudding? Are my drinks included? And what happens if I want any extras on top of that? Like, they're very basic things. But we don't transpose that same thinking into the construction industry, which is absolutely wild. But it makes total sense when I deliver this to them in a training.
Have you got any other kind of real life examples of someone who actually has grasped that and taken that away and seen some measurable benefits?
Yeah, I'm gonna big myself up now because it's my best example. We have a guy in my digital mastermind who his average priced quote was 3K, and since working with me for the last, he's in week 9 now. But after week, it was about 5 or 6. He used the Clarity framework and he closed 158 grand.
So what do you think's the difference then between those who make it work and those who struggle? Is it mindset? Is it strategy or something else?
100% mindset first, courage second, strategy third.
You're a big believer in community and collaboration, aren't you? And you built a pretty massive Facebook group. Tell us a little bit about that.
That grew absolutely organically. I never had any intention of growing that thing at all. It originally, I started it and put a few mates in there that were on the tools that I wanted to help, and that was it. It wasn't even called what it's called now. I just changed the name of it over time. I think it was called Builders Chat or something to start with, or some words to that effect. And it eventually became the training business. We got 7,200 members in there now, which is incredible. I just absolutely love, not what I do, I love seeing the results that people get from implementing the things that I teach them. There's no better feeling.
So let's talk about some of the other sort of barriers, I suppose, that you see. So either people that, you're working with, but, what are some of the things that just stop people from being successful or even taking that kind of next step?
I think we go back again to mindset, courage, and strategy. Is those 3 things that, whilst those 3 things are going to make you a success, they're also going to be the things that hold you back too. We all wake up on days and have, today's not going to be a good day. And when you wake up with that thought, guess what? It's not going to be a good day. We've got to set intention for the day and really believe. I hate all the like woo stuff. Me, I can't stand it because I just sound like a broken record, like everybody, and saying the things that everybody else says. But they're so true. You've got to believe in you, or nobody else is going to do. And that's such a cheesy thing to say, but it's so true.
Probably a good time for us to sort of dip into your background for our listeners, just to understand, perhaps where some of this resilience and this courage comes from. So, you had a background in the army and then the corporate world. So, what lessons have you learned from both of those areas?
As you say, I was 14 years in the forces, where the army is a very disciplined, structured, regimental machine. And I joined that I didn't go straight from school. I got into a bit of trouble at school, and then that's a longer story. I joined the forces and they straightened me out, if you like. Served 14 years and became a section commander and training instructor as I left. And then as I left 14 years in, I went straight into corporate construction management. I didn't have the domestic transition that most people do. So I went straight into project management, and I got a job for a company called Bullock Construction. They don't exist anymore, but they were a social housing refurbishment contractor. So it was kitchens and bathrooms for council houses, as it were back then. The scheme was called CESP, the Community Energy Savings Program, I think it stood for, which meant that we had to take council houses and bring them up to the government-defined standard called decent homes, which was everybody got a new kitchen, everybody got a new bathroom. This 300 million and these 3,000 projects, that's where they came from. So I was delivering 10 a week, 10 different projects a week. And I just did it in a systematic, structured, disciplined way because I knew no other way. The army had taught me systems, process, procedures. The army had taught me that. And I go into corporate construction and I quite simply embedded that same level of thinking into corporate construction. But all of my peers they were all winging everything. It was all fag packet phone calls. They're all busy, stressed, hair falling out, all aging beyond, their actual age. And it was, you look at that situation and go, why are you doing it that way? Just do it this way. But all of my peers, there was in that business, there was 13 of us all delivering projects, all 10 a week. So there's a lot of volume going through the business. But I was the black sheep, not them. So, they were all doing it in a way that I perceived to be wrong. And I'm looking and observing, watching them all stressed out whilst I've got a process. And my peers, well, the management tier above me moved me on to another site because I was creating this angst around doing it properly. So they moved me into a new site where there was no one else. It was just me. And I was delivering a tower block of flats. I was the number one on site. And I used the same methodology to deliver this job. Went really, really well. And then I got headhunted from another national contractor, and I went to do the same for them. With them, I was a national operations manager for delivering projects up and down the country rather than just in a region. So I had projects in Scotland, Wales, England, right at the very north of Scotland up in Wick, right down to my furthest south was probably Caerphilly in South Wales. And I had a very, very small job down in Torquay, but they weren't at the same time. Anyway, so I used to fly up and down the country, in and around, checking in on sites, using this same process that I had devised. The stress of the travel, not the job, really, really, really started to impact my health and my relationships with my family. So I was spending, from Sunday afternoon, I would leave to get to site, and I wouldn't come back until very, very late on Friday. So I was very tired on Friday night. So I was getting Saturday day and Sunday morning at home. That was it. So I was really disconnecting with the family, and all of the travel was really, really tiring. And I mean, it sounds quite nice to be flying around the country, but it's not. It's shit. And I was boozing a lot at the time, functioning alcoholic at the time. And there just came a time in 2018 where it was, I can't keep doing this. I've got to wake up. So I didn't go and hand in my notice. I told my manager the crack and what I wanted to do. I said, I want to get into property. So I decided in that moment that I was going to leave and set up my own property business. But coming from a construction background, I found a building and I was about to leave my corporate role and go in to buy this property. I didn't know anything about property investing, nothing at all. I was a builder. And I saw this opportunity. I had some money in the bank and I saw this opportunity. I thought, if I set up a construction company, I'll just do the work myself. I'll jump on the trowel and it's going to be an efficient way to deliver it. So I started my construction company, full safe in the knowledge that I was going to buy this building and convert it myself, me and the lads. The property fell through, long story short, and I didn't buy it. And now I'm out of a job. And it was like, oh no, what am I going to do now? So I put, the little business cards you used to put in Tesco's slot that said builder for hire and stuff like that. I did one of them. I put one of them in Tesco. This lady, Emily, her name was, she rings up and says, I've seen your card in Tesco window. Can you come and hang a TV on my kid's bedroom wall? And I was like, yeah, sound. So I went round. That was my first sale. She said, how much do you want? I said, 40 quid. And she went, is that all? And I was like, well, I could have charged more. And again, this is me now. I'm not sales savvy in the moment. And I got £40 cash in my hand. I thought, this is amazing. I'm working for myself now. And bear in mind, I'm 42 years old at the time, looking at this 40 quid and going, I can make something of this. Phone goes again. Garden wall came in. 980 quid was my second sale. Never forget that either. And I turned up. I had a Range Rover at the time. I didn't have time to get a van or a mixer or anything. So I hired a mixer. I turned up in my Range Rover to build this garden wall. Straight away, it was like 900 quid, day and a half. And I'm thinking, there's something in this. So I started to grow my construction business from there. Won a couple of extensions, a couple of HMOs, started going to property networking events. And my dream clients were everywhere. Property developers, buying land, buying property that wanted refurbishments. And I'm sat there thinking, wow, this is a gold mine. All these people are standing up at these networking events and saying, I need a builder. And I'm like, hello? So I started pricing up these works for people. And I don't even know if I'm answering the question, but we're into it now. We got going, and as I started delivering these projects for these property developers, I very quickly went, you lot don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to engage me. You don't know whether I'm being efficient. You're not being efficient. You're certainly not being compliant. And the cost of borrowing and the cost of asset holding that you're enduring right now must be absolutely killing you. And I started doing like some one-to-one coaching with these folk. Then I went on holiday to Turkey with the wife, and I was moaning about this process. They're taking up so much time for me helping them out like this. And she said, you need to either stop moaning or start a product or a service that helps them with this. And that's where my training business was born, on a beach in Bodrum in Turkey. So we started the business from there. We just started delivering training and helping people to deliver projects. Have I answered your question? Don't even know what the question was anymore.
Yeah, no, it was about the lessons from both your days in the army and, corporate. And I think, interesting to see how it evolves. Always interesting to know kind of where the seed of a new business starts, because it's always identifying problems, right? It's seeing something that isn't working and then being that entrepreneur that says, I can fix this, right? Now, of course, along that journey, there's been highs. I'm sure there's been some lows as well. Have there been any particular painful moments, failures that actually, on reflection, have kind of shaped things for you?
Yeah, there's been highs, there's been lows. Like, I'm the opposite of risk averse. I never know what the word is. My wife says I'm reckless, but I wouldn't say that. If I see an opportunity, I tend to go all in on the opportunity before actually finding out whether there's a need for it. Good example being I launched an online mastermind product in COVID. So, the world got locked down and I thought, right, the world needs this digitally. So I created my mastermind online and put it up for sale. It cost me about 65 grand to build it, with all the software and time embedded and time invested into it, consultants that I used, videography, the editing, everything else. And I made 0 sales. And it was like, wow, what have I done? Like, how am I going to get this money back? And I just had to write it off. But it was a great learning for, that learning springboarded into my digital mastermind that I run now. Like, the first thing I did was market tested the demand. That was the very first exercise, which was unusual for me to do that. I normally, as I say, I'm quite reckless and let's just do it. Let's just try it. And,
And was that the reason, sorry to interrupt you there, Paul, was that the reason why you think the first product didn't sell, because actually you weren't serving a need that was big enough?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't serving a need. People's need was not to learn from me during COVID. It was to get outdoors. If I had my time again, looking back, I would have definitely got into the dust mask industry. I'd have definitely got into the gloves. And I would have created probably an online networking community group. That's probably what I would have done, because people craved human connection back then. But I didn't see that. I kind of just went, right, you all need this, what I do, online. And they didn't. No one wanted it. No one interested.
So let's get into a little bit more of Wealth Talk here is about generating multiple streams of income, is about building wealth, and there's capital and there's cash flow. We like to focus a lot on cash flow because that's money that is coming in every month, money you can spend, allows people to become financially secure and financially independent. What are the two areas of kind of capital and cash flow that you see mostly in the areas of construction, and someone who wants to build additional recurring income streams? What are some of the ones that you might recommend people focus on?
Well, there's lots of different product avenues as opposed to streams of income, if you like, when it comes to creating product funnels, if you like. One being charging customers for what I call the pre-con service, which is we sit down with a customer, let's say they got HMO conversion, and we do the design work with them. We pull all the drawings together and we just take hold of the whole pre-construction process, pull all the compliance documents and paperwork together, specification writing, schedule writing, and putting together a cost plan, bill of quantities, lots of different things that are required prior to a project starting, instead of just getting keys and ringing our uncle to come round and start swinging sledgehammers around and then start panicking for an electrician, as it were. That would be a typical process. So there's the actual service themselves. You've got a consulting stream of income as well. Accompanied viewings on projects with investors. And a nice one is pricing up refurbishment projects for estate agents prior to them going on the market. Now, this takes some work, but I think it's a really valuable service, and I'm always hammering on at my guys to do this. So into the estate agent doors and saying, look, Mr. and Mrs. Estate Agent, I can see if this property is about to come on the market or whatever that might be, or I can see you've got one on the market. that's not selling, allow me to go around, price it up for you, then you can use my quote to then issue to anybody that's coming to view. And it works for twofold in that the estate agent can pay you for it, or you can just, it allows you to get ahead of your competition and getting your quote in front of someone before they've even asked for it.
Another big opportunity and why, Wealth Builders and yourselves, I think are a good fit is the untapped opportunity of developers tapping into their pension funds. And I know you have SSAS pension yourself, Paul, and this is something that many people are still not aware of, right? Obviously, we're doing our best to spread the word about the SSAS pension, but, with commercial property, with land, obviously that lends itself really well to being able to leverage funds that are in pensions.
Yeah, absolutely. I started I think it was 2022 that I tapped into my pension, and it was off the back of a talk I heard at a networking event, and I forget who the speaker was. It was a networking event in the Northeast, the property thing with Paul Million and Anthony Boyce up there, if you don't know if you know them lads. They ran an event, and the speaker was a SSAS speaker, and I was listening to him and I was thinking, I'm pretty sure I've got a corporate pension from my old job. And the guy said, if it's not worth 85k, I disagree with this, by the way. If it's not worth 85k, you might as well just leave it where it is. So I kind of went, yeah, I don't think I've got 85k in mine. Or was it 65? I can't remember. I can't remember the number he shared. But he said, for it to be worthwhile, it needs to be of a certain pot. So I went back to my previous employer and said, I've got no idea how much is in my pension. And I genuinely didn't know. You get the statements with projections, but I didn't know what the current value of the pot was. And they said, you've got, from memory, I think I had 82 in this one. And then I thought, hang on a minute. I worked for another company before that as well. So I went back to them and they said, you've got 30, whatever it was in this one. So I was like, I've got 100 and odd grand sat here in pensions. And I actually couldn't believe it. And I started to think this has got to be a con. This has got to be a scam. So I went through the entire process with the administrator. Is that the right language? And they was like, no, this is right. So we'll do all the paperwork for you. And I'm thinking, hang on. So you're not only have I got this money, you're going to get it for me as well. And they're like, yeah, there was a fee to pay per pension. I think it's 1,200 quid from memory. So there was two fees, one for each pension. So I paid like 2.5 grand, I think it was, to access this money. It comes into my bank account. And now, I'd not thought ahead, as I say, I'm quite reckless. I don't really forward plan with stuff like that. Then it was like, right, I've got this money, now what? Well, it's just sat in my own fund. It's not doing anything. So I started talking about this in my peer groups. Someone said, well, can you lend it me? And I was like, what? You want me to lend you my pension? Yeah, you can do that. And I was like, nah. So anyway, look to go back to the administrator. Yeah, you can do that. So they took care of all the legals, all of the security and everything else. I had it deployed for 18 months or so. And that grew by 1.4% a month, I think it was, which was incredible. That was a really great win. And then this year, I discovered that I can deploy business profits straight into my tax to mitigate my corporation tax inside of my business as well. So that was like a no-brainer as well. So I'm like kind of in the background filling up a bank account with HMRC's money, which feels great.
Look, we're coming towards the end of a really great conversation, Paul, but a couple of questions directly for our listeners now. So for anyone listening who's got money but no experience, what do you think is the smartest first move they could make in construction or property?
It's got to depend on the person's profile. Like some people, I'm just thinking of people that fits. So I've got a client that's got no experience, loads of money, got absolutely no interest in learning, and just wants it done for him. So he should be hiring, in that example, he should be hiring a one-stop shop contractor or a project management consultant, or one or t'other. Like that would be where I would put my money. If, however, he's got money with a desire to learn, I would say, get educated. Get some education, be that one-to-one support, coaching, mentoring, or a course. Whatever your learner profile is, I have in-person trainings that are belt-fed across 3 to 5 days. And then I have also an endured program that's 12 months done online. So we created different products to suit different learner profiles. I think that's really important to understand desired outcome in terms of is it education or outsource they're looking for, and then if they are looking for education, what's their learning profile? Is it in person? Is it online? Is it quick or is it long? Do you like to be sit down in front of a computer for a whole day, or do you want to sit down and have like 5-minute videos? Like, or do you want it live, or do you want it recorded? There's lots and lots of different things to think about, and it's not a one-size-fits-all response to your question.
And you've got some exciting stuff coming up this year. You've got a property conference in November, I believe, and then your Cyprus retreat as well. So making sure business remains fun as well.
Yeah, you got to. Yeah. We've just bought a house and land out in Cyprus. So, we're building a business out there that starts in 2027, which is extremely exciting. I just ironically need to see how my SaaS works. I believe I've got to deregister it in the UK, which might be a bit of a pain, but we're trying to get my accountant's trying to get a workaround for me now.
For anyone who wants to connect further with you, Paul, where's the best place for them to head?
Facebook's probably the best place to get hold of me. Unless you want to give me shit, then TikTok. That's where all my trolls are.
And you run some free networking days as well. So perhaps if you can share with us the details, then we can send that out to anyone who's interested in coming along to that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, next one's 30th of August, Brecon Beacons, whole day. It's on a Saturday. Just go for a mountain climb, come back down.
Paul, thanks so much for being a great guest on Wealth Talk today.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Okay, thanks to Paul, sharing lots of good information there. Really enjoyable conversation. One thing that I asked Paul, where's the opportunities out there at the moment for someone in that area where we were discussing? And he said it's about really bridging the gap. So looking, I guess holistic is a word we use a lot at Wealth Builders, but looking holistically, bigger picture, what are all the kind of different elements of that property project? And you've got the investors, you've got the contractors, the refurbishment process, and you've got several people. And he said the value really is if you can bring that together. And that's obviously a certain skill set, but one that I think he highlighted well.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at this in a number of different ways. One of those is all entrepreneurs who are in business are solving problems of others. And so sometimes the business is, like he talked about, some of the best builders, not really builders. They're business owners who've systemized the process of building. So you don't have to be a builder to have a great building business. And so it is with many businesses. In fact, that more often, if you're not the doer, you're not tempted to do the doing. So you're more likely to try and find the solution to the problem and then make that solution for the end user. But in his case, he's actually looking at not the end user, but the people creating a business of doing property. So he's seeing that he's got a unique talent through, I suppose, part of his education in the armed forces, creating discipline, process, systems, operations, and turning some of that thinking. And I think he demonstrated some people who definitely would not change their thinking. And that's true of any aspect where you ask somebody to change, they'll either change or they won't change depending on the perceived benefit. And some people clearly didn't perceive the benefit and just wanted to do the same thing. I think he used the example of the sort of, one-page handwritten quote or even a Post-it note or whatever, which you just wouldn't do today. Well, you wouldn't expect that. So I think looking at the whole process can help. But equally, we've seen business owners who create the whole process, not actually owning a business themselves, but seeing what people are searching for, what niche that they're particularly interested in, and then they can combine all the parts of the process for somebody who's looking. So instead of someone looking for an accountant or somebody looking for, let's say it's the financial side of property, somebody looking for somebody to do capital allowances or something, you can create a website, you could create a process that joins up trades, accountants, architects, lawyers, and build that all together almost like a bit of a hub or what we call a gateway, which can help you create a business by joining other people's businesses together. So it doesn't really mean you have to be skilled in those things. You're effectively a skilled librarian, or maybe that's not the right word, a skilled curator. And you're bringing things together that other people are searching for. And in a world where it's so easy to find what people are searching for, you can create that relatively quickly.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. Actually, takes me back to when I first did the wealth dynamics assessment, and must be over 10 years ago now. And for anyone that understands wealth dynamics, we've talked about it on a previous podcast. I will link to it, but it's an online assessment. We use it for all of our members who join us in the Wealth Builders Academy. And Paul talked about learning profiles. Well, this is like your entrepreneurial profile. This is choosing the path that's the best fit for you based on your strengths. and things that will get you into flow. I'm sure, Kevin, you've had people say to you, oh, you just make that look easy. You're a natural at that. And there's something that all of us have, that genius skill. And sometimes we don't identify it. And that's what Wealth Dynamics helps for you to really pinpoint that. And yeah, I myself, when I transitioned from employment to setting up my Escape the Rat Race company, naturally was that connector, as you said, that curator who was good at kind of bringing people together, and the glue often referred to in the middle that was helping people make great connections and learn.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really the reason why we connected and did something collaboratively, because we've got different wealth dynamics and we began to respect and appreciate each other's differences. And it's not lost on too many people that I tend to do more of the creativity, more of the speaking, more of the passionate pleas, and more of the inventing of new services, which we'll be doing now with the inheritance tax position. So my skill is that financial thinking and clarity, and being what I like to think is a teacher. Originally, when I went to university, I wanted to be a lecturer, but now I am a teacher, but I teach grown-ups, not young students or kids. And I like teaching grown-ups, including actually sometimes with the inheritance thing, teaching older people to think differently about how they're leaving their legacy, rather than it being consumed, to be passed on with stewardship. So, there's a big difference in that thinking. So I like challenging thinking, and that's what gives me juice. And that's why I'm still here, despite my age and despite my increasingly wizened expression.
Well, know thyself, I think, is the message we're saying here. And if you haven't taken Wealth Dynamics, then I'll put a link in today's show notes. Do go and check that out. It really, really is extremely valuable. Something else that Paul talked about was his, well, I say a failure, but during COVID, he talked about launching an online program, and then it kind of fell a bit flat. And we've all had these moments, I'm sure, in our sort of entrepreneurial journeys. But there's a key lesson there, I think, which is, don't spend hours and hours and loads of money building something until you've validated and tested the market to make sure there's someone who wants to buy it from you.
Well, exactly right. And it wasn't lost on us that when I got on my high horse about the inheritance tax guide, what did we do? We created a wait list. And then, we got 100 people like that, and we realized there's demand. So now we'll go ahead and create the guide. But if you imagine I'd gone into a studio, shot the video, put some effort into marketing, spent thousands of marketing, and everybody was put off by the concept of inheritance and they wanted to put it off and so on. But no, I think we've hit a chord there, and I think that's true in anybody who's looking to create a new business. Test it first. Test the idea in whichever way you can, and sometimes just getting feedback from people you trust. Say, I'm thinking about this as an idea. Can you tell me whether it's clear to you? Do you understand it? Do you think it makes sense? What do you think of the proposition? And people who know, like you, and trust you will tell you the truth and give you some feedback. So you can do it in small scale, or you could do it if you already got the business. You can do that with a sample of your clients, or or in networking. You can go and share it and say, would you mind if I shared this with you? And people will be generous with their feedback. And I think there's many ways to create and test that idea before, what did he say? Spend 65 grand? Wow. I mean, that's a lot of money to lose, isn't it? Just to get the idea wrong when you could have spent 65 quid, just to create a template.
So for anyone perhaps who's listening, who's new to Wealth Builders and WealthTalk, then our core IP is the 7 pillars of wealth. And there are 7 different asset classes where you can generate recurring income. That's really our objective, is to help our members and our clients to achieve financial independence and all the freedoms that come with that. And so we're talking to Paul today about property and about business, which are 2 of those pillars. But we also touched on a 3rd pillar, which is pensions at the end. And Paul mentioned about this SSAS pension, Kevin, which sounded pretty cool. We know it quite well, but for anyone that doesn't, maybe just share a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, I mean, look, the language is horrible. Who would think SSAS, small self-administered scheme? What does it mean? Is it to do with the armed forces? No. Is it to do with software as a service? Definitely not. It's really for business owners like me, like you, where we can essentially, instead of delegating control of our pensions away, consign that money into a box that says, do not disturb till 65 and hope for the best. You can take complete control of your money and operate it like you would operate your business and operate your life. So whatever you want to do, you can use that money to do it pretty much. So it's turning your pension into a business that you can run, and you've got points of access so that it can help you build your wealth today, get corporation tax, income tax back today. So use money that would have gone to HMRC, pay it to yourself, and then use that to build your wealth. And we're very passionate about it, but it is uniquely for business owners, not for employed people exclusively, not for sole traders, so it's not for that market. It's definitely the domain of the entrepreneur with the structure of a limited company, which then gives permission for the SSAS pension to be created. So, we do thousands of those, and we love doing them because it changes lives, because it brings money onto the table that is on somebody else's table, taking a recurring income from it. And this is an important point, Chris, to make, that wealth comes from the creation of recurring income. But all too often, people don't understand it well enough, so they end up paying a recurring income. They pay, and that usually in three places. They pay tax recurring when they could pay less tax. They pay interest to third parties. Well, if you use your SSAS, you can use your own money, so it's interest free. Or they're paying expenses like stock market fees to third parties, which they don't need to pay. If they take control, then they can take control to the point that they can significantly reduce or even eliminate those fees. So the skill of being a wealth builder, the skill of building wealth, is to build recurring income and have that coming into your life instead of seeing multiple ways of income flowing out of your life.
Great. Well, thank you for explaining that. And thank you to Paul Tinker for sharing everything today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm sure there were some nuggets that you'll take away. And if you think somebody else might enjoy listening, then please do hit the share button and send it to them. And Kevin, you and I will be back same time, same place next week.
Yeah, we will indeed. Until then, my friend, see ya.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget that we are constantly updating our resources inside the WealthBuilders membership site to help you create, build, and protect your wealth. Head over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership right now for free access. That's wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership.